Всем привет, с вами Миша Ряженко. Сегодня у нас исторические события. Сегодня у нас гостем в нашей рубрике «9 вопросов к крутому гитаристу» первый раз выступает иностранный гражданин. Это Йенс Ларсен, он гражданин Нидерландов, он очень крутой джазовый блогер. Я долго не буду про него говорить, потому что, наверное, это видео будут также смотреть люди из других стран. И мне кажется, что получилось очень круто в качестве эксперимента такого, и больше будет обязательно уже практически готовы другие интервью с известными западными чуваками. Ну и, собственно, Йенс выступил вот так вот первым, добровольно согласился, и очень круто получилось. Ему спасибо огромное. Thank you so much, Jens, if you are watching this video. You are awesome guitarist, and it's a really an honor to have you as a guest. И мне кажется, что это переход такой на новый уровень, новая информация. Йенс — это самый, наверное, популярный джазовый блогер, вообще гитарный, который существует в мире на английском языке. У него просто тонна видео, он не один раз появлялся у меня в группе, с удовольствием выкладываю его видео. И всем нравится, он очень круто объясняет, я сам много нового узнал из его видосов. Он отлично владеет гитарой технически, импровизирует. Если на первый взгляд это такой дяденька, можно сказать, дедушка, который, ну, вроде как так спокойно играет, нифига, он вообще даст жару вообще очень многим чувакам. Вот, очень крутой дядя, абсолютно, 100%. Вам стоит посмотреть его канал, вам стоит поучиться, и он абсолютно крут. Так что Йенс Ларсен, наш первый иностранный гость, самый популярный джазовый блогер на YouTube. Я имею в виду гитарный джазовый блогер на английском YouTube. И, в общем, не будем больше терять времени, поехали слушать его ответы на 9 моих вопросов.
Hi, Misha. Thank you for doing this interview and featuring me on your channel. I think it's quite mind-blowing that a Danish guitar player living in Holland can make videos that reach all the way to Russia. So let's just get to the questions. When I'm playing over a song, then I guess I'm pretty much just playing chords. My approach to playing harmony is in many ways quite simple because I really just try to play simply into the chords. So if it's a C minor 7, then I'll play notes that are closely related to C minor 7. I think maybe one thing that's a difference is that I tend to very often when I'm improvising, one thing is, of course, we can improvise lines and notes and even chords, voicings when we're playing over some chords, but we can also start changing the chords. So if I'm playing over chord progression, then I actually might start changing the chords quite a bit along the way, and use other sounds, and also just completely different chords, so that if I have to go from A to B, then maybe there's like one thing written, but I might go a completely different way to get there. And that of course also depends on what kind of setting it's in, and how much freedom I have. But I think that's maybe one thing that's sort of more of a personal way of playing harmony, also more of a modern jazz way probably. For the rest, I'm really basic in what I do, so I tend to think mostly in key centers, and then just really spell out the harmony in a fairly simple way by just hitting strong notes in the chords on heavy beats, and sort of the normal jazz thing. To me, I think everybody has to find sort of their own mix of different techniques and how they put them together in a way that works the best for them. And that's probably going to involve, at least in jazz, you see mostly that it'll involve really quite a lot of different techniques. So mostly, I think I'm coming out of alternate picking, and that's sort of the main thing that I use. That's also what I practice the most. And I practiced quite a lot of like one upper string stuff, just to get really a lot better at that. And I find that working on stuff that's really difficult for alternate picking really helps with getting the rest of the alternate picking a lot faster and a lot more smooth. So that's something that I've worked a lot with. But when I'm playing, I really find that I'm using a lot of legato as well, and I'm also using a lot of economy or directional picking. So in a line like that, I'll use 4 or 5 techniques, and I'll also use slides in that way. Whatever kind of gets the job done. I think in the end, when you're working on technique, the point of technique is that it's gonna be a way for you to get the sound in your head out. And that means that sometimes there's a solution that's just going to use 3 different techniques, and hopefully you practice so much that you don't have to worry about which technique to use. You just worry about how it sounds. So my guitar rig is fairly simple because I'm using this Ibanez guitar most of the time. I mean, I have other guitars that I use as well, but this is really the main guitar that I use. Then there's a cable, and then I go into this and I'll put in a picture of it. This is a Fractal Audio X8, which does really the whole sound. So that does the effects, and it also does the amplifier and the speaker. And then the way I amplify that is it basically has a line out that I can use when I'm recording. So that's really practical when I'm making videos. And I just send it to either a PA or to a PA or to a powered monitor that I have. And I use a QSC powered monitor if I use my own. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it's easy to work with for me. And I really like the sound of a Fender amp that's turned all the way up. But the volumes I play at, you can almost never do that. In fact, you can probably never do that. Most of the time I'm playing with a twin that's turned all the way up, and I would never, that's way too loud for anything I play. That's never going to be useful. So I can get that sound without having to do it because I'm using the digital model here. So that's how I approach that. And then also because I can really sort of tailor my own effects. I don't really use a lot of effects. I will sometimes use overdrive, and then mostly I'm just using delay and reverb really. But I'm a bit particular about how those sound, so I want to be able to get them to sound exactly like I want them. And the Fractal unit does that really well, so that's why I'm using that. But probably my ideal practice routine, sort of if I didn't have to worry about anything, then that would be something like, first, I would do what I normally do because I'm of course working, I make a living as a guitar player, and one of the luxuries is then that I can also decide that I actually practice in ways that I want to because it's part of what I do. So in that respect, like just practicing technique and scales and stuff like that, I would do that the way I'm anyway doing that. I have a video on that on my channel you can check out if you want to see how I do that exactly, but it's just sort of practicing through all 12 keys and doing different exercises. I change things all the time, and the whole practice routine is made up so that I'll practice new things all the time, and I'll also repeat things. I mean, it's just making variation and keep yourself thinking and hearing music when you're working. I think that's really important. So that's of course only like half an hour or something like that. And for the rest, well, I would probably spend my time playing songs most of the time. That's really how I practice. Most of the time I might have sort of a topic in mind, but I would really just spend my time playing songs. And then maybe using that topic. So if I'm working on playing dotted quarter rhythms on top of a standard, then I'll just sit down and work on that, play some solos, and then try and work with that rhythm in different parts of the song. And then one thing that probably most people won't talk about in their practice regime is that I find that where I learn the most is when I'm playing with other people. So if I have spare time and I can find people that I can jam with, then I'll actually do that. And it used to be so that when I was studying at the conservatory, then when classes ended in the summer holidays, I would stay here, even though I live in another country, but as much as possible, I would stay in Holland, and then I would just jam with people pretty much every day for a few hours, because I find that that's really a nicer way to learn, and it's more fun, and you get challenged, and you're also working on some of the other skills that you need in terms of interacting with other musicians. So if you have that, it's difficult to set up also now. For me, it's not something I do a lot, but I do it as much as I can. Probably one of the experiences that I've had quite a few sort of really strong and really good experiences when I was studying at the conservatory here in The Hague. One of them that I really treasure is that I got to play with Michael Brecker, because he was giving a masterclass at the school, and then in the evening there was a concert, and then I was chosen to stand next to him and play unison themes with him a few times, and that was a really big experience, just to stand with a star of that caliber. So that's something that I'll always remember. And again, I think actually also there's a video of that on YouTube with me being very nervous. Right now, I think my top 3 albums, I'm always going back and forth with what I'm listening to, and I'm not sure I can really make a top 3 albums, to be honest. But 3 albums that I've listened a lot to lately would be sort of that first Jim Hall album where he's playing in a trio with piano and bass, which is just an amazing album, and I've really been checking that out a lot. Then I've also been listening quite a lot to an American band called Grizzly Bear and their latest album, which it's something completely different, but it's just an album that I really like. And then I think, what would be a good third one? I think also recently I've been listening quite a lot to some of the earlier George Benson again. And that kind of came because I made a video on a solo of his, but also just because his playing and his phrasing is really out there. It's really good, and to hear somebody play and be that groovy is just really, really interesting to listen to. And also you just get a kick out of it just because it's so strong. I think the most important thing that you have to keep in mind if you want to be a good musician, or guitar player, or any kind of musician really, is that you shouldn't only practice exercises and you shouldn't only think about getting good. I think you should also just think about making music, and that means very often that when you're practicing, so don't only do exercises, make sure that you're really spending more of your time really playing music. I think that if you listen to, like, at least for jazz as a genre, if you listen to people like Pat Metheny or Schofield, and when they talk about what they're practicing, and there are videos also of Pat Metheny practicing where he's just sitting down with a metronome and playing songs, and that's also what Schofield does. So I think that's really what you want to do, and I think if you really want to get much better as a musician, then make sure that you also find really good people to play with, people who will push you, and make sure that you can also push them a little bit, and in that way get more out of in that experience with playing in a band. And I think it's also useful to learn from other instruments than just guitar. I mean, we can sit down. By now it's easy. You can just look at my channel and you can sit down and watch YouTube videos all day. But that's not going to be anywhere near as inspiring or as efficient as playing with other people and really having to get from the beginning to the end of a piece of music. Especially if you start doing stuff like I do, where we just experiment and try things out in between. And at least for me, that's really important. When I'm on stage, I take a lot of chances and I try out a lot of things. And I like to be with people where that's allowed. And I think that's where it's most fun, but it's also where there's most happening and where you learn the most. So thank you for having me, Misha. I guess if you guys think that this was interesting to check out, then you can of course check out my YouTube channel. And that's mostly going to be stuff about jazz guitar and jazz harmony and stuff like that. And because that's what I do, that's what I teach, that's also what I play. And that's what I want to do also. So if that's something that interests you, then you can of course go there and check that out.